Okay, so we're going to think about Nagarjuna's text, Letter from a Friend. And this text is one of his very famous ones. It's not a technical text about emptiness like many of his others are, but it is full of very practical advice for daily life. Yeah. So I highly recommend it. Last year I started teaching this. We got as far as verse 28, but most of you weren't here then. So I thought I would start over, but just reading the first 28 verses, maybe with a few comments here and there, and then really start teaching from verse 29 in the hopes that you would go back and watch the videos from last year when you get home. Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. So the Sanskrit name of the text is Shrileka, means letter to a friend, and he begins by saying homage to the gentle and glorious youth, which is a translation of Manjughosha, one of Manjushri's names. Okay. So, like I said, I won't explain each verse, but maybe a few comments here and there. Okay, the first one is he is paying homage, which is what authors always do at the beginning of their text. So he's paying homage to the Buddha. Listen now to these few lines of noble song that I have composed for those with many virtues, fit for good, to help them yearn for merit springing from the sacred words of he who has gone to bliss. Okay, so for those of us, he's assuming we're people with many virtues and, writing it for our benefit. And then, the second verse says, the wise will always honor and bow down to Buddha's statues, though they're made of wood. So too, although these lines of mine be poor, do not feel scorn. They teach the holy way. So, when we bow down to Buddha statues, it's not the material or the value of the material that's important, but rather they remind us of the Buddha's qualities. Yeah, and so similarly, he's telling us here that, his words may be poor. He's being very humble. But don't scorn what I'm about to say, because it is the teachings of the Buddha. So similar, if you look at a statue that's made out of just simple wood, it may not be glorious, but it represents the Buddha and demonstrates the Buddha's qualities, so we respect it. So the same here for what he's going to teach us. While you have surely learned and understood the mighty Buddha's many lovely words, is it not so that something made of chalk by moonlight lit shines gleamingly whiter still? So you may have heard these teachings before, but don't think you know them. And, don't be puffed up, because the teachings are beautiful no matter how many times you hear them and no matter what your level of understanding is. Okay, verse 4, 6 things there are the Buddhas have explained, and all their virtues you must keep in mind. The Buddha, here's the 6, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, bounteous acts, actually it should be translated as generosity, and moral laws should be translated as ethical conduct. And the 6th one is gods, meaning the celestial beings. So these are called the 6 recollections, and they're often taught. I think they're in volume 3. Can't remember exactly. Okay. Then verse 5. With body, speech, and mind, always rely on wholesome deeds, the tenfold virtuous path, avoiding liquor and other intoxicants at all costs. Thus find true joy to lead a life of virtuous deeds. Tenfold virtuous path, what are they? In order? Yeah, to abandon killing. Well, yeah, to abandon killing, stealing, unwise and unkind sexual behavior. Then the four of speech, lying, divisive speech, then our speech, then idle talk, and the three mental ones, coveting, malice, wrong views. Okay? So just abandoning those 10 is virtue, and acting in the opposite way is virtue. But he's also saying avoid liquor and implying all other intoxicants at all costs. Okay? And if you do that, avoiding the 10 plus the liquor, you will find true joy to lead a life of virtuous deeds. Okay. Now, people hear it go liquor, but everybody drinks, drugs, everybody drugs. I don't get intoxicated. Yeah, right? I don't get intoxicated. It's not a problem for me. So why should I abandon it? That's what all the people for whom it is a problem started out saying. Mm-hmm. So just think about it. Actually, yesterday the day before, I was reading a letter from one of the inmates that I correspond with, and he had been helping somebody who had just come into the prison, who was, in the process of detoxing from drugs. And then Al, the guy I was writing to, started saying, I don't know how this guy is, but boy, I wish that I had never gotten into drugs and alcohol. And that made me think, Al is an incredible Dharma practitioner, this man I'm writing to in prison. Really good practitioner. He didn't meet the Dharma until he was in prison. But the reason he's in prison is because he was intoxicated and he killed his mother and his stepfather. Yeah. Horrible karma. Yeah. It's one of the 10 heinous actions. Yeah. So when he says, I wish I had not gotten involved in intoxicants, he's saying it with some meaning behind it. Verse 6, possessions are ephemeral and essenceless. We go, oh, come on. Possessions are important, and they signify my success, and they signify my social status, and they signify how intelligent I am. Why is he saying they're ephemeral and essenceless? He says, possessions are ephemeral and essenceless. You think about this. Yeah, most of you have heard some teachings before, so you need to fill in the blanks here. So possessions are ephemeral and essenceless. Know this and give them generously to monastics, to Brahmins, to the poor, and to your friends. Beyond there is no greater friend than gift. Okay? So beyond generosity, there's nothing greater than, generosity. And he's really encouraging us to give away our possessions while we have them, because we can't take them into the next life. Yeah. Dying with a lot of possessions does not create merit. Giving away our wealth before we die does create a lot of merit. And at the time of death, what we need is merit, not wealth. Okay, the wealth all stays here. Yeah, in Precious Garland, he goes into that quite a lot, about the values of generosity. And there he's speaking to a king, and he's really going into it with the king, saying, you have all these treasure houses full of all sorts of stuff, but if you think that that's meaningful, forget it, because when you die, all your ministers are going to forget about you. They're going to be competing with each other to get a hold of all the treasures, and they're going to be using that treasury to butter up to the next ruler. So you're out of the picture. Everybody's going to go and clamor for your belongings so that they can use it to increase their own status and power. So he said to the king, better you give those things away so that you create merit and so that the people who need them can have them. I hope the king listened to him. Yeah. Verse 7, keep your precepts unbroken, undegraded, uncorrupted, and free of stain. Just as the earth is the base for all that is still or moves, on ethical conduct, it's said, is founded all that's good. Okay? So he's really emphasizing that the basis of our Dharma practice is ethical conduct. Yeah. So don't think that ethical conduct or morality is Sunday school kind of stuff with a bunch of rules that somebody you don't know made up and is going to punish you if you don't keep. That's not what Buddhist ethical conduct is about. Okay? It's about knowing what creates the cause of happiness and what creates the cause of suffering. And then, because we want to be happy, not only now but in future lives, then creating the cause of happiness and abandoning the causes of suffering. Yeah. So he's saying, whatever level of precepts you've taken, if you have the 5 precepts or monastic precepts or whatever, keep them well. Okay. Then 8, generosity and ethical conduct, fortitude, joyous effort, meditative stability, and the wisdom that knows thusness. Thusness means emptiness. These measureless perfections make them grow, and be a mighty conqueror who has crossed samsara's sea. Okay, so on the basis of morality, then practice the six perfections. And here, ethical conduct is the second of the 6 perfections. Okay, so just because we, advance to the bodhisattva practice doesn't mean we forget ethical conduct. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we rationalize things by saying, oh, but I'm doing it with profound compassion and bodhicitta, and it just happens to be, something that benefits me personally, or gets even with somebody I don't like. But we use bodhicitta and compassion as a rationalization. It's kind of like, I think some people, when they were kids, they would get beaten as kids, and the parent, whoever was beating them, would say, I'm doing this for your own good. Yeah, but you could tell by how they were beating you that that wasn't their real motivation. Okay, 9. Those who show their parents great respect with Brahma or a master will be linked. By venerating them, they'll win repute. In future, they'll gain the higher realms. Okay, so there's certain objects with which, when we do actions, these actions become very weighty, And our parents are one of those fields of actions. And that's because of their kindness to us in this life, giving us our body, taking care of us, and so forth. So he's saying here that if we respect our parents and take care of them, it brings very good results in terms of our rebirth in the Brahma realm, or to have a very good spiritual mentor in the future. Okay. So, not everybody in this country has had good childhood. Not everybody in the world has had good childhood. But still, it's very valuable to appreciate our parents for what they did do. Yeah? Because bottom line, is they kept us alive and kept us safe. Yeah? And if they couldn't do that themselves, they made arrangements for somebody else to. And they gave us the body, which, is the basis of our precious human life. So we can look back and think of all the things that went wrong in our childhood, and you'll never find an end to that. Or you can look back and think with gratitude about everything that went well in your childhood, and you'll never find an end to that either. So which one is going to make you happy? Which one will keep your mind in a positive mental state? Going back and, they did this, and then they didn't do that, and then this happened to me, and then, and oh, and oh, and ha, and yeah, is that going to make you happy? Or is thinking, well, my parents weren't perfect. They were ordinary sentient beings like me, but given their ability at that time in their lives, they did the best they could. And look how I turned out. I turned out pretty well. Yeah, give yourself some credit. And, a lot of that was due to the nurturing that our family gave us. Okay? So you can choose, how you want to look at things. But we will experience the result of how we choose to look at things. Mm-hmm. Okay, 10. Eschew all harm. Don't steal, make love, or lie. Abstain from drink, untimely greed for food, indulging in high beds and singing too. Refrain from dancing, all ornaments shun. For men and women who keep this 8-branched vow and emulate the precepts the Arhats took, their wish to nurture and to cleanse will grant them handsome bodies as celestial gods. Okay, so in the actions mentioned in verse 10, those are the 8 precepts. You can take them for one day, or you can take them for a whole period of days. So here at the Abbey, prior to people taking monastic precepts, we ask them to take these 8 precepts and keep them for a year. And they wear the little or big, depending on your size, blue outfit, indicating that they're anagarikas and that they're considering ordination. They're thinking about it. Okay. So he's saying that just keeping those, okay. So you're emulating the precepts that the Arhats took. The Arhats are liberated beings. So that's going to be creating a lot of merit. And, your wish to nurture your ethical conduct, to cleanse any negativities you've created in the past, then even in a worldly way, that will result in handsome bodies as celestial gods. But hopefully when we take and keep the 8 precepts, our motivation isn't just a good rebirth, it's going to be liberation, or especially full awakening. In 12, stinginess and cunning greed and sloth, and arrogance, attachment, hate, and pride. For example, thinking, I have breeding, I'm from a good class. Yeah, I have good looks, learning, youth, and power. Okay, so having that kind of arrogance together with the other ones of stinginess, cunning, greed, thought, sloth, and arrogance, attachment, and hatred, all those are the enemies of good. In other words, when those kind of mental factors and emotions occupy our mind goes south. We do all sorts of things, say all sorts of things, and create the cause of suffering for ourselves and do things that make other people suffer. So it's good. We're going fast, but in your meditation, go back on these things. Look at all these things that he's mentioning and ask yourself, do I have those, and how do they manifest in my life? So, for example, stinginess. Yeah. Do you have some stinginess? Yeah. What do you do under the influence of stinginess? Yeah. Is that a trait you want to continue to have? How are you going to oppose it? How will you counteract it? Okay. What about cunning? Stinginess, okay, we can admit cunning. Do we want to admit that we have cunning? Yeah. Or do we just blame the politicians for being cunning? Okay, what about us? Are we deceptive? Do we kind of, figure our way around different things that we don't want people to know or we don't want people to find out? Yeah, do we manipulate other people to get what we want out of them? Do we even admit to ourselves that we want to use other people? Or do we conveniently ignore that fact that we want to use them, get something out of them for ourselves? Okay, so Nagarjuna, he doesn't pull punches. He just puts the word there, cunning, and leaves it for us to kind of do some reflection about, do we have that trait and how does it manifest and what effect does it have on ourselves and others? And what are we going to do about it? And if we keep on being cunning and manipulative, what's going to happen in the future? And we always kind of, well, cunning and manipulative, that's what other people do. Those really sneaky people who use other people? Yeah, but don't you use other people sometimes? Lama Yeshe said once that sometimes when we say, I love you, what we really mean is, I'm going to use you. Think about that one. Yeah? And then what about the pride? I come from a good family. I'm attractive. I'm very educated. I'm young and good looking and healthy. Not like those old decrepit nuns. I'm a young, vital nun with a future ahead of me. And I hope I don't have to take care of those old decrepit ones. Are you a young one or on the verge of the old decrepit ones?
But I notice sometimes that the old decrepit ones do more than the young ones.
It's true. Not always, but very often. Yeah, the other day there was nobody who wanted to cook for lunch. Who volunteered to cook for lunch?
Old decrepit nuns.
The old decrepit nuns. Yeah, the young nuns were too busy doing whatever they were doing, looking in the mirror. They, they had no time to cook lunch for everybody else.
You just lost all of your young nuns.
What?
You just lost all of your young
Young nuns. No, I trust them more that they won't run down the hill because of that remark. Yeah, I'm just nudging them a little bit. What do you think, young nuns? Yeah? You're almost now like what I just shot down was all the people who were thinking of becoming young nuns. Now they don't want to come anywhere near the Abbey.
I don't know. If you don't have to do anything.
That's true. Yeah, if the old decrepit ones wait on you hand and foot, you've got it good. Yeah, okay. Okay, I think we can take out the hair clippers then. Okay. Who's joking? Verse 13, carefulness is the way to deathlessness. Sometimes carefulness can be translated as heedfulness, or conscientiousness, while carelessness is death, the Buddha taught. Yeah, doesn't mean literally death, it's death in terms of your good behavior. Yeah, death in terms of creating the causes of happiness. And thus, so that your virtuous deeds may grow, be careful, constantly, and with respect. Those who formerly were careless, but then took heed, are beautiful and fair. So that's a worldly result you get from it. As is the moon emerging from the dark clouds, like Nanda, Angulimala, Darshaka, and Udayana. So Nanda was the Buddha's cousin, and he was like this guy. All he did was he wanted to look at the beautiful women and run off with beautiful women. And so the Buddha, in order to, he ordained, but his mind was always distracted. So then the Buddha, then the Buddha took him to the God realm and showed him the women there who were so much more beautiful than the women on earth. And told Nanda that if he practiced well, he could be born in the God realm. So that changed Nanda's mind, and he started practicing well. By practicing well, he wound up renouncing samsara and gaining nirvana. Angulimala, he's the one you don't want to meet in the dark alley. He's the one who had killed 999 people and was looking for the thousandth victim because he was making a necklace of bones from their fingers, and he needed 1,000 of them. And he too, the Buddha, subdued his mind. Yeah, Angulimala spotted the Buddha. He was running after him. That's my 1,000th one. I'm going to kill him. And the Buddha just walked very slowly, and Angulimala, as much as he ran, couldn't catch up to the Buddha. And so Angulimala shouted out, slow down. And the Buddha said, I have slowed down. My afflictions are, pacified. You need to slow down. And anyway, he converted Angulimala, who later became an arhat. But what was interesting is, despite Angulimala becoming an arhat, a liberated being, he still had to experience the result of his horrible, dreadful actions that he created before, because everybody in society was terrified of him. So when he went out on Pindapat to gather alms food, everybody split. Nobody wanted to make offerings to him. And in fact, they threw stones at him, they threw things at him. So even though he was an arhat, because of how he had terrorized people before, they still had that view of him, and he had to experience that result. Yeah. So we can see that, sometimes somebody changes, but our image of them doesn't change. Or sometimes we change, yeah, but other people's image of us doesn't change. And we have to, bear the result of our previous bad behavior. Mm-hmm. Hard to practice, for fortitude knows no peer. So never allow yourself a moment's rage. Avoid all anger, and you will become a non-returner. So the Buddha said. Okay, so fortitude, the antidote to anger, hatred, and so on. Okay, 16. He abused me, he struck me, he defeated me, and all my money too he has purloined. And this guy's a jerk, and I hate him. Okay, to harbor such resentment leads to strife. Give up your grudge, and sleep will easily come. When we want revenge, we can't sleep. We're burning with anger. Yeah, and so instead of complaining, like in the first two lines, give up the resentment, give up the grudge, let your mind be peaceful. Okay, so this is important, because otherwise we can carry a lot of grudges around with us, and we can even accumulate new grudges as people do the smallest little thing that we don't like, that we blow up into something big and then hold a grudge against them. 17. Understand your thoughts to be like figures drawn on water, sandy soil, or carved in stone. For tainted thought, the first, the best. While when you long for Dharma, it's the last. Okay? So when we have corrupted thoughts, when we wish people harm, when we are stingy, when we're greedy, when we're vengeful, when we're arrogant, those kind of thoughts should be like writing on water. Okay? Like figures drawn on water. If you draw on water, do they last? No. So our non-virtuous thoughts, our motivations should be as brief as writing on water. Okay? If we long for the Dharma and we want to transform our minds, then our Dharma wisdom, our Dharma thoughts should be like carving in stone. They last a long time. Yeah. They don't go to waste. They don't get dispersed. Yeah. So, it's good to when we monitor our mind and become aware of our thoughts, to ask ourselves, do I want these thoughts to be like writing on water? Like writing on sand, it's going to stay around a while? Like writing on stone, like carving them in stone? Yeah. So what's the quality of my thoughts, and how do I want them to be significant in my mind for a long time? So the virtuous thoughts and all our Dharma knowledge and our Dharma wisdom, those we want to last for a long time. So we should remember them and not have Dharma be in one ear and out the other. Okay, 18. 3 kinds of speech are used by humankind. And these the victor variously described. Okay, so 3 kinds of speech. Like honey, sweet. Like flowers, true. And like filth. Okay, so improper speech, the last of these eschew. So improper speech, lying, divisive speech, harsh words, idle talk, those are like the filth. Yeah, but we should try and make our speech like honey, something pleasant, something appropriate. Okay, like flowers, something true, something that encourages other people. Yeah, so instead of using our speech to pick faults, to pester, to nag, to ridicule, yeah, to use our speech to encourage other people to develop their good qualities and to praise the good actions that they've done. Yeah? And use our speech to make the Dharma known to them. There are some who go from light to light, and some whose end from dark is still darkness still. While some from light to dark, or dark to light, end up thus four of these be as the first. Okay? So light is a good rebirth, dark is an unfortunate rebirth. So if you do the 4 points, yeah, what are the 4 points, people on the Thursday night class? Okay, so something that's both, and which in this case would be going from a good rebirth to another good rebirth. Okay, and the second one? Okay, so going from a good rebirth to a bad rebirth. That's going from light to dark. Okay, third one? Dark to light, which would be from a bad rebirth to a good rebirth, which is difficult. And fourth, from dark to dark, a bad rebirth to another bad rebirth. Okay? So he's saying, be the first one. Yeah? You have a precious human life. Make sure you create the causes for happiness so that next life you can have a precious human life, be born in a pure land, continue practicing the Dharma. Don't use your precious human life to, help your friends and harm your enemies and accumulate a lot of wealth so that you'll be famous and important, but you have absolutely zero compassion for other people. So, use our life well. 20. Human beings, like mangoes, can be, here we have another 4, can be sour yet look ripe. Some, though ripe, look green, and others green are sour indeed, while others still look ripe, and ripe they are. From this know how to act. Okay, so like mangoes, some actions can be motivated with a horrible motivation, so they're sour, yet we make them look good. What's an example of that? Something you've done with a bad, rotten motivation that you've tried to pull the wool over other people's eyes and make what you've done look good.
Days ago, I wanted to take a nap. I was like, oh, I should start the dishes early. And the inside, it was like, this will be 2 reasons. I'll get to take a nap, and other people will think I'm so great.
Good example. Okay. Then the second one, some, though ripe, so they have a good motivation, but the actions look green, look not so good. What would be an example of that? You have a good motivation, but what you do to other people doesn't look so good.
Scolding someone so that they don't continue that even greater mistake.
Yeah, so you're scolding someone with genuine compassion so that they they don't continue to make, greater mistakes. Okay. Then there are others that are green and are sour. So a rotten motivation and a rotten action. What's an example of that? Yeah. Backbiting with intention to cause harm. Yeah. And then there's others where you have they look ripe and ripe they are. So there's a good intention and a positive action. What's an example of that? Huh? You don't know my mind. I'm just doing this so you all think I'm wonderful. Okay. So someone teaching the Dharma with a good motivation about that. Okay. What I'm doing is the one, what was it talking about? Cunning? Yeah. Yeah. What can I get out of these people? I don't know. What can I get out of you?
Apparently not much.
What?
Apparently not much.
Yeah, apparently not much.
I clean your garbage out.
Huh?
I clean your garbage out.
You bring me
I
what?
clean your garbage out.
Oh, yes.
Something.
Yes. She is the great and glorious Bhikshuni who took out my garbage can, which is this big. Let's hear it. Okay, so we're leaving mangoes behind. Verse 21. Do not gaze upon others' wives. I won't do that, believe me. So it's talking about wives here. It's addressed to the king, who's obviously a man, but it means others' partners. Okay, so whoever it is you're attracted, if you're straight, if you're gay, I don't know. It just means whoever you're attracted to. So do not gaze on others' partners, but if you do, regard them as your parent, your child, or your sibling, depending on their age. Okay, so if you look at somebody and some lust is coming up, quell it by thinking of that person as your parent, your child, or your sibling, and hopefully you don't have lust for those people. Should lust arise, think well. They are by nature unclean filth. Okay? So if it doesn't arise, see them as your parent, child, or sibling. Look at what their body is. Okay? What's on the inside of your body? Is it beautiful? It's blood and guts, isn't it? So what's on the inside of the body of the person that you're attracted to? Blood and guts. Okay, if you contemplate that, the lust, goes down quite dramatically. Mm-hmm. That's why most of you don't do that meditation. Yeah, but when we think about the nature of the body, it's not that we just think about the ugly nature of the other person's body. We have the same kind of body, so we think the same about ourselves. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like taking it out on somebody else. Yeah. Which you can see happens in a lot of cultures, where it's, a woman gets gets raped, and it's blame the woman because she dressed a certain way and she was the one who invoked his lust. So she's the one at fault if he raped her, which is baloney, but that's what, happens in a lot of circumstances and situations. Yeah. So we're not doing that here. We're realizing the nature of others' body and the nature of our own body is the same in that way. Yeah. There was just a case, speaking of this, where a judge, I forget in what state it was, urged leniency on a 16-year-old who raped another 16-year-old, saying that that he was from a good family, had good grades in school, was definitely college material and had a bright future, and didn't the girl who was raped realize that she would ruin his life by bringing this to court? Can you believe that a judge said that? Yeah? I mean, it's so horrible that somebody would think that. And, just victim bashing when it wasn't her doing at all. So, but this happens. This is standard fare in many cultures. Yeah, shame the victim, blame the victim. Okay, 22. Guard this fickle mind as you would do your learning, children, treasure, or your life. Renounce all sensual pleasure as if it were a viper, poison, weapon, foe, or fire. Okay, so our fickle mind. Is your mind fickle? Yeah, do you change your mind a lot? Yeah, you say one thing, then you want to do the other thing. You like this, then you don't like it. Yeah. So our mind is pretty fickle. So guard our fickle mind, and try and stabilize it. Yeah, protect our mind from being fickle. As we would do our learning, we don't want to just let our learning get dispersed. Your children, hopefully you value your kids. Treasure, yeah, our learning actually is our treasure, or our life. Okay? And if we're going to renounce, what we need to do to kind of stabilize the fickle mind is to renounce sense pleasure as if it were a viper, poison, weapon, foe, or fire. Okay? So if a snake slithered in here, would you say, oh, please come sit on my lap while I listen to Dharma teachings? Yeah? Or would you stand up and scream and run out of the room? Okay? So it's saying our attachment for sense pleasure. Yeah? So it could be beautiful things to see, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touch, tactile objects, beautiful thoughts, all the worldly concerns that are based on sense pleasures. Yeah, don't make those the center of your life, because if you do, you wind up creating a ton of destructive karma. Okay, so shy away from those things as if they were a viper or a weapon or who knows what. 23. The pleasures we desire will bring us ruin. They're like the kimba fruit, the Buddha said. Eschew them. It's their chains that tightly bind the worldly and samsara's prison house. So he's really pinpointing here, worldly desires. And we live in the desire realm. There's 3 realms in samsara: the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless. The form and formless realms are beings who have different states of meditative absorption. The desire realm is all of us whose minds are fixated on external objects. Would you say that your mind is fixated on external objects? Yeah? Morning to night, what are we looking at? What are we concerned with? What is it that motivates everything we do? It's our contact with what we see and hear and smell and taste and touch. You know, we're like puppets, you know, and our attachment to these sense pleasures are like the strings that move us. And it brings us ruin. I'm not sure what a kimba fruit is. We need to look that up. You know, yes?
On another translation, it says sweet. Oh, there's a bracket. Sweet on the outside, bitter within.
Okay. So a fruit that's sweet on the outside, bitter within. So our pleasures, you know, when we chase worldly pleasures, they look good on the outside, but they always disappoint us. They always draw us into more greed, more craving, more anger, more whatever it is. Yeah. So these are the things that tightly bind us to samsara, our continued existence in this kind of body and mind. Of he whose fickle senses are controlled, these six that never cease to dart at things, and he who's fought and conquered many foes, the first is truly brave. The wise have said that. The people who have controlled their fickle senses, and this is what the Buddha really recommends, starting, you know, at the very beginning of our practice, to really be mindful and careful of what we look at. You know, when you walk down the street, are you looking at all the department store windows? Are you looking at all the attractive people to, you know, to see who you're drawn to? Where do our eyes go? Yeah. What about our ears? What do we pay attention to? Yeah. Do we want really to hear nice music? Are we fixated on sweet ego-pleasing words? Yeah. What about smells? We want to smell nice things. You go to Delhi and it smells like pee and poo, and you want to run back to, you know, your own bathroom at home. Okay. Taste. We like the food that we think tastes good. Yeah. We're fixated on food, especially, you know, you come here, you know, you guys are going through cold turkey, you know. First you have to give up your smartphone. Yeah, that's almost like having your hand cut off. Yeah. So you give up your smartphone, you can't go on the internet here, you can't get in your car and drive away. Coffee. No coffee, no meat, no liquor, no, I've learned you have to call it cannabis now. Yeah, that's the appropriate word. No cannabis. Yeah. Yeah. No TV programs. Yeah, it's really cold turkey. So what do you focus on? Food. Yeah? And food becomes really important on retreat. Okay, so are you thinking of what we're going to have for dinner? I'm going to tell you already. It's soup and bread. Whereas, you know, as long as we're infatuated with external things, our minds are always looking at them. You know, what kind of car is somebody driving? Yeah, where are they working? Oh, look at this. Oh, that's beautiful. No, 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 no. Okay. But somebody who's fought and conquered many foes, like attraction to sense objects, that's the person who's truly brave, say the wise. Okay, so somebody who's not just pulled along by their attachment to sense objects. That's somebody who has control of their own life, who has been brave in conquering that kind of attachment. Not easy. Yeah. 25. Regard as a maiden's body on its own. It smells so foul, its openings 9. Okay, so regard that like a pot of filth, insatiable and clothed with skin. Regard to her adornments on their own. So again, this isn't talking just about women, but whoever you are attracted to. Yeah, if you look at their body, just as you look at your body, the smell is foul. Yeah, out of all the openings in the body, filth comes out. It's clothed with skin, so you have blood and guts, and then you just wrap it in skin. Yeah. You put in some teeth and eyeballs so it looks nice. Okay. 26. A person with leprosy, consumed by germs, will stand before the fire for comfort's sake, but still find no relief. So know the same is true for those attached to pleasures they desire. So in several verses here, he's really drawing our attention to sense pleasures. And sense pleasures include, good reputation, praise, social status, these kinds of things. Now, how you might say, how is social status a sense pleasure? Because you have to depend on external objects to have social status. Okay, so we're involved with that. They often use the example of lepers to talk about the futility of sense pleasure. Okay, so a leper, is in so much pain that to alleviate the pain they're in, they will burn their limbs. Yeah, because their limbs are rotting away from the leprosy, and by burning it, it stops the pain, that pain. Okay? So they stand before the fire for comfort's sake, but they find no relief because even after scorching their limbs, the pain comes back. Okay? So know the same is true for those attached to pleasures they desire. So when we're attached to external things, we're like that leper. The craving we have for the external object is painful. Yeah, we think the pain is not having the desired object. Actually, the pain is the craving itself. Okay? The problem isn't the desired object, it's our attitude for it. And we may, motivated by craving, get the thing that we desire. It may feel good initially, like a leper scorching their limbs. But afterwards, we want more and better, more and better, more and better. We're not satisfied at all. Okay? So it's like the leper returning to their painful situation. Or, in a way, an analogy that we might know, like drinking salt water. You're thirsty, so you drink salt water. Does it quench your thirst? It feels better for a moment, but then you're even thirstier than before. So in the same way, our craving leads us around. We may get what we crave, but then it satisfies for a moment, then we want more, we want better and more and better and more and better. You get a new car, then it's nice, but then you want another new car. After a year or two, or even after a day, if your neighbor gets a nicer one. Yeah. We always want more and better, more and better. And then the craving just takes control and runs our life. And who knows what in the world we do when we have a very strong craving for something. Yeah, we often completely like go insane, like lose all reasoning because we're craving something so badly. Yeah, we're kind of like drug addicts, aren't we? Except we're more refined and we hide it better. Yeah, but the mind is very similar. Yeah, I want more. I need more. I have to have it. In order that you see the ultimate, in other words, the true nature of things, get used to truly understanding things. No other practice is there such as this, possessed of special virtues such as these. Okay, so really putting our energy into understanding, into learning, yeah, and not just learning so that we have knowledge and facts, but reflecting on what we learn, yeah, so that to make sure we understand it correctly and we can go deeply into it, and then meditating on it so that we can unite whatever we have learned with our being, with our mind. Okay. And then 28. To those possessed of breeding, in other words, high social class or good education status, learning, handsome looks, yeah. So those people who have neither wisdom nor ethical conduct, you need not bow. But those who do have these two qualities, though lacking other virtues, you should revere. Okay, so somebody may have good social standing, book knowledge, handsome looks, okay, but if they have neither wisdom nor ethical conduct, you don't need, there are not people to respect. Yeah. It's making me think there was also just recently this case of the son of a very wealthy Wall Street man who graduated from Princeton and then killed his father because his father cut his $1,000 a week allowance to $300. So that man who did that, yeah, he had breeding, learning, handsome looks, but he had neither wisdom nor ethical conduct. Yeah, and they just convicted him of murder, and he's going to spend a long time in prison. Yeah. Okay, but those who have those two qualities, in other words, wisdom and ethical conduct, even though they lack good social class, they lack book knowledge, they lack good looks, even they're impoverished, those are the people we should respect and revere. Yeah, the ones who have wisdom and ethical conduct. So this is also another practice, to be mindful of who do we respect? Yeah, who do we admire? Who do we respect? Yeah, because whoever we admire and respect, those are the people we're going to try and be like. Yeah. So it tells us a lot about ourselves and what we're aiming for if we look at, who do we, admire? Who do we revere? Who do we respect? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had one of my teachers, he's passed away, but he was an incredible practitioner. He used to meditate above Dharamsala in one of those squeaky mud and brick huts. And he would come down to town, and his robes were old and they were disheveled, and they were all different colors, and his whiskers were sticking out, and his shoes were like these old brown beat up shoes and old socks that were falling down. And he would walk around to the Linkor, walk around His Holiness's residence in Namgyal Monastery. And people just thought, he's some kind of old monk, that's all. Yeah. He was actually quite an amazing practitioner. And he meditated in the mountains for years until His Holiness asked him to go teach in Italy. Yeah. And, incredible practitioner. So humble. Yeah, so humble that you would never notice him. Or if you noticed him, it's because his shoes and socks were old and, like that. So no, not fancy looking, not strutting around, with a whole trail of disciples behind him. Okay, extremely humble, but really a good practitioner. So somebody who looks like that, do we respect that person, or do we kind of say, kind of looks like some sort of, I don't know, old monk who's not worth very much. Yeah. And then we're attracted to, the nice sparkling monks with big smiles and a whole string of disciples and big hats and tall thrones, and lots of brocade. And we say, oh, those ones are the really good ones. Yeah. On what ground do we evaluate potential teachers? Yeah. Do we look at outer things, or do we look at inner qualities? Yeah. And in general, who are the people we become friends with because we think those people are honest and will help us to be good people? Or are we friends with people who flatter us because they make our ego feel good, but actually they lead us astray? Okay. So this is a good thing to spend some time on, really thinking about who your friends are, what kind of teachers you're attracted to, what kind of people you respect. Okay. So that was the review from last year.
I was for a moment pondering about why respect for parents will lead you to have a good teacher or be reborn in the Brahma world. And the last verse now made it a little bit more clear to me, but not necessarily. I don't know how it was in Asia at that time, but nowadays often children don't have respect for parents because they are not acting ethically necessarily, or maybe they are learned but don't practice what they have learned, and they are not wise enough. So, but if they are, then if you have respect, I can understand. Then you have a certain attitude already towards a senior, and that will provide you to look for the right person next later on to lead you on the spiritual path.
Yeah. But even if our parents aren't ethical, and even if, they lack parenting skills, he's also saying appreciate that they gave us life. Yeah? So sometimes, what you can learn from certain people is how you don't want to be. Yeah? So sometimes we learn from our parents. We revere them for their good qualities, and that's how we want to be. And sometimes we look at our parents and we learn what we don't want to be. Okay, because we want to be more honest or ethical or whatever. But bottom line, our parents gave us this body, which is the basis of our precious human life. And so to appreciate them for that. Hmm? Okay, verse 29. You who know the world, take gain and loss, or bliss and pain, or kind words and abuse, or praise and blame, these 8 mundane concerns. Make them the same and don't disturb your mind. Okay, so people, if you are familiar with how the world operates and you have some wisdom, then looking at gain and loss, whether you get possessions and money or you don't, yeah, we're usually pretty reactive to that, aren't we? Yeah, oh, I got something good, or somebody gave me a present, or look at this beautiful thing I have. Yeah, and then loss, it gets broken, it gets stolen. Okay. Bliss or pain, okay, so good sense experiences that are pleasant, blissful for our senses, or bad ones, yeah, smelling, tasting, things like that are very bad. So we're really reactive to all of those too. Okay. Kind words and abuse. Woo, talk about sensitivity. Yeah. I want to have a good reputation. I don't want to have a bad reputation. Mhm. And then praise and blame. I want people to say nice things to me. Yeah, and I don't want to be criticized and disapproved of. Yeah. So these 8 things. They're four sets of 2, where we're very attached to one and have a lot of aversion to the others. These 8 occupy a great deal of our energy. Yeah, most of the day we're revolving around those 8. Yeah, you think? Oh, I got to the grapes before they were all gone. Yeah, that's good. Chuck one up. Oh, I'm an old decrepit nun, and she praised the old decrepit nuns in front of a group of people. Now I have a good reputation. Yeah, you're sitting up a little straighter now. Yeah, amazing what reputation does for posture. Yes, here I am. Good reputation. Yeah. And I just got criticized. Yeah. They told me when I come here I have to make my bed. And I didn't make my bed. These people criticized me for not making my bed. Yeah. You'd be surprised the number of people who come here who have never made their bed before. And we have to teach them how to make their bed, and how to sweep a floor, and how to work a vacuum cleaner. It's amazing. I'm not joking. Yeah? So make your bed. um, yeah, it's truly amazing. So, yeah, our life goes around these 8 worldly concerns. Yeah, so spend some time thinking about them, and maybe the discussion tomorrow could either be about the 8 worldly concerns, or maybe it could be about who we respect. Yeah, who we want to emulate. That could be a good discussion as well. Okay, then verse 30. Perform no evil, even for the sake of Brahmins. So those would be people that you respect spiritually. Bhikshus, or the ordained Sangha. Gods, some kind of celestial beings. Or honored guests. Yeah. your father, your mother, your partner, or your court, for those of you who have a court. Yeah. Yeah. So don't do anything negative for the sake of somebody else whose favor you want to win. You may want to win the favor of, somebody who's a high class, like the Brahmins, the Sangha, the celestial beings, honored guests. We want to win the praise and approval of our parents, of your partner, or your court. Here, court could mean your circle of friends. You want to do something to impress your friends. Okay? So don't do negative actions in order to impress these people. Yeah? Another way to say it is don't go along with peer pressure. Or another way to say it is don't make the purpose of your life doing what you think other people think you should do. Yeah, just to please them and impress them. Okay. The ripened fruit for doing so, okay, the ripened fruit in hell is for you alone. So you may do all these actions to impress other people, but if we act negatively, who experiences the result of our own destructive karma? We do. Okay? So that's the fruit that we experience alone. The people we were trying to impress, they're off doing whatever. Yeah? But we suffer as a result of doing actions, harmful actions in order to impress those people. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. Yeah, lots to think about in this text, isn't there? Quite a bit to think about. So spend some time, in the break time thinking about it. And, read the text. This is a text we could read many, many times and think about for a long period of time.